How does self-awareness bring about transformation? Hello, beautifuls. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how self-awareness brings about transformation. Disclaimer, I had an injection in my eye and it is bruised. So if you see the redness there, that is what that is from. But the show must go on. So we're going to continue to talk about self-awareness and transformation. So self-awareness, let's talk about what self-awareness is. It is the ability to see yourself, basically. If you're able to see yourself, you have more self-awareness. And it is something that often we don't carry in our day-to-day life. Many of us don't carry that because we spend a lot of time externalizing all of our experiences and not really paying attention to how we are actually impacted from those experiences. So this is what self-awareness is. It allows you to see yourself, to understand yourself, how you are showing up, how you are being impacted, how you are impacting other people, and how, your life experience is playing out based off of those things. If we want a more transformed life, it always comes back to us. So I'm going to talk about 3 areas where we can really think about where we can have more self-awareness so we can have transformation in those areas. And so the first one I would want to mention is how you move about in the world. You could have a lot of self-awareness in how you move in the world. And that could be how you approach the world, how you see the world. If you see the world from a negative lens, if you see the world from a positive lens, and how that ends up impacting how you move. Because if you are someone and you show up in the world and move in the world based on the world being a terrible place, then this may impact how you engage in the world. And what makes you feel the world is terrible is based off of oftentimes your experiences and how you've internalized experiences. And often how we internalize experiences go back to our early life experiences. If you've had a lot of negative encounters, it is possible that you see the world negatively. If you've had a lot of positive encounters, you might be more positive in your outlook on the world. So thinking about how you approach your challenges and your struggles in life, having self-awareness of that can be very much tied into how you may change something. So if you show up in the world and you show up and deal with your challenges in a way where you run from your challenges, or you show up in your challenges where you embrace them and take them on, can be a lot of information for you. It's a self-awareness. It'll show you so much about, why you may get the results that you get. If you're showing up to your challenges with fear, then you may avoid your challenges in life. And if you're avoiding challenges, you're probably not getting different results from the challenges you experience because you're not addressing them. So how you show up, how you show up into your challenges, your struggles, your outlook, how you celebrate life. Do you celebrate life or do you feel like life isn't worth celebrating? These are things that can tell you a lot about yourself and the outcome you have moving in the world. But if you are someone who shows up in the world and sees, a way of being where you understand that challenges come and you have an understanding that everyone has challenges and it may impact how you move through challenges, as opposed to if you see challenges as only happening to you, and feeling like, the victimhood of challenges. Not to say that there aren't things happening to people, but still the attitude that you take impacts how you move through the challenges. And that is a part of self-awareness. So if you don't like how you move through challenges, to be aware of that can give you the first steps to doing something differently. And this is the same when it comes to relationships. And even when I think about this whole thing of self-awareness, oftentimes I think about someone who's had a drug addiction, because it's the first place that I've recognized the idea of having self-awareness, even before I understood the term self-awareness. But what I've always known is that someone who deals with a drug addiction, there can be so many people trying to come to them to show them that they should change, or show them how much they're hurting someone else or how much they're hurting themselves. But it's always been noted and stated that a person's going to address their drug addiction when they see it as a problem. So it's like when they have the awareness of it being a problem, not when someone else is pointing out that it's a problem, not when someone is showing them how it's hurting them and the people they love and it's putting them at risk for losing everything. It's not those things that cause a person to change, which we're talking about transforming. It is that person seeing that they have a problem first, and having that awareness that that addiction is a problem is the first thing that happens when they change. So that is something to keep in mind, is this power of your awareness can be the thing that helps you face even the most difficult things. And so going into relationships, it's the same thing, because in relationships, we have the ability to see how we are in our relationships. It is how we give. Do you overgive? Are you someone who holds back from giving? Are you someone who is very social and you love to be social? Do you find yourself being withdrawn or uncomfortable in your relationships? This is something that can help you see the nature of your relationships. Are you dealing with people who you tend to feel hurt from often? Do you tend to deal with people who you feel energized from? What type of people do you put yourself around? It's something that self-awareness will show you. What you feel when you leave the company of someone is something that self-awareness can show you. Because if you're in relationships where when you leave the engagement, you always feel less, there's something to that you can start really having more understanding with. It could be that the people that you're around aren't healthy, and you might be able to recognize, like, yeah, whenever I'm around this particular person, I feel bad when I leave their company. And is it because this person has been criticizing you the whole time? When you're not aware, you might just accept this and be in that and later feel bad and not understand why. But when you have awareness, you can say, when I leave this particular company, I don't feel good. I feel bad. I feel negative. I feel drained. Understanding a relationship like that and how that impacts you personally is something that self-awareness can give you. And again, it could be because the person is toxic, but it also could be because you might have low self-esteem. You might be around a person who has everything together, so it seems, and you are judging yourself against them. So there's more than one reason that you could walk away from a situation feeling bad about yourself, but having the awareness opens up the opportunity for you to be able to think honestly about what that is about. And so when you are able to recognize these things in your relationships, you can start to approach things different. So for example, if you're dealing in a relationship with someone who, whenever you leave their company, you feel bad, and if you look and see it's because this person is always criticizing you or demeaning you, then you can look back, you can step back and say, this is not a healthy relationship for me, and find distance between you and that person. Or if you're in a relationship where you leave the company and you feel bad and you recognize it's because you have some envy of the person that you're around, then it could help you to see where you could start doing things for yourself that make you feel better about yourself, that make you be able to be in the company of other people and actually celebrate them, because you're doing things that also help you to feel better about yourself. So that's important, right? That's an important quality to be able to have in your relationships. If you have children and you're, hard on your children, self-awareness can help you see that. And that can help strengthen your relationships, because when you have the awareness and you have the awareness, then you on your own can make the decision, what can I do to make this better? So we can't make things better if we don't even have if we don't even recognize what we're doing or how something's being impacted. So our relationships are important, and we want to have healthy relationships. So having self-awareness can help you recognize the relationships that you do see that are healthy. And when you can recognize what about those relationships are healthy, you can seek more of those types of relationships, and do away with the ones that are, challenging how you feel and are not supportive. But then the number one way to be able to see yourself, and have self-awareness, because that is what self-awareness is seeing yourself on a lot of different levels, is the relationship with yourself. So having self-awareness of how you are with yourself is important, because that is the basis for everything. And so even being with yourself to recognize that you don't even like being alone because you don't like being with yourself, or you don't value who you are. Maybe you feel like you need to have someone around you who you admire to feel good about yourself. That's a major self-awareness revelation, because the truth is, if we don't feel good about ourselves and being with self, that's everything after that. We are vulnerable to whoever we're giving our power to outside of us. So being able to have that self-awareness about who you are, how you see yourself, how do you talk to yourself? Are you encouraging, or do you have a lot of criticism to yourself? If you're in a work environment, do you approach challenges at work with confidence, or do you always feel like you're messing up, or do you always feel like you don't know enough? Do you always feel like there's something that's not enough that you're doing? Because the truth is, you are doing enough. You do a lot, but when you don't have the self-awareness, you can't give yourself credit for it, because now all you're doing is this pattern of negative self-talk, and that possibly has been something you learned from someone else. But self-awareness will help you to recognize that. Self-awareness will help you to recognize when other people have been able to speak to you in such a way and you pick up where they left off. And now you're just continuing carrying the baton of negative self-talk based off of early experiences. Self-awareness can help you see that, so that you can say, I do have a self-esteem issue, and I deserve to be able to see myself in a better light the way I see other people, and I want to see myself in a better light. And actually, if I saw myself in a better light, I wouldn't feel so bad about things. I wouldn't feel so hard on myself, and I would actually enjoy life more. So self-awareness can help you to see that and recognize, this is a thing, and now I want to do something about that thing. Because we usually aren't going to make decisions if we don't make them from a conscious place. We're going to possibly make decisions based off of our negative self-belief, our negative self-talk. But when we feel confident about ourselves, we can recognize that too, and let that be, something that spills over into other aspects of life. Or how can you share your ways of being confident with other people who struggle with confidence? So, that self-awareness with yourself is big. Do you give yourself downtime? Do you allow yourself to rest? Or are you someone who always feels like you have to be achieving in order to feel valued or valuable, or to feel like you're worthy? Do you have to keep up with accomplishment after accomplishment? Self-awareness can help you see, self-awareness of yourself can help you see if you're exhausted. If you just sit with yourself for a while and tap into how you're feeling physically. Are you tired? Because you can be so much on the go that you don't even pay attention to how you feel in your physical body. And so recognizing if you eat emotionally, when you're emotional, do you grab something sweet? Do you grab something salty? These are things that you can recognize are habits. And once you recognize them, you can change the habits if they're not giving you the results you want. So if we want to have results, we have to be aware of what we're doing that are causing the current results that we don't like. And when we do that, we can change the habits to get different results. And it sounds so simple, but there is a quote I heard that, the things that are simple usually are the best solution. And it doesn't take rocket science oftentimes to get us back in balance. It doesn't take like some type of major study to recognize these things. The truth is simple, is what I'm trying to say. The truth is simple. It doesn't take a lot. It's very straightforward. we can really tap into how we are in these different areas of our life, and we can find that we get different results because we've paid attention. But the thing is, we live in a world that often keeps you distracted by being busy, by being more focused on, our outside world, or what other people are doing, or what other people are projecting onto you. And there's also the idea of being distracted by all of the electronics, all of the things, all these things can keep you so distracted from paying attention to yourself. So it's important to develop some ways to be more aware. So let's talk about that for a moment. How are some ways that you can be more aware? One of them is maybe many people's favorite love, and that could be journaling. It may sound like something you hear all the time, but if you haven't done it, you should try it. Because, regardless of how much you've heard a thing, we're talking about applying a thing to your life. And so if you have not journaled before, or if you're someone who knows you like to journal, why give up on something that helps? Journaling for many people is a good tool to be able to get your thoughts out, to see your thoughts on paper. As you write, awareness comes to you like, oh, this is true. I didn't realize I felt like this. Or, for some people, as you start writing, things just start to flow out of you, and you can get a lot of information. I have journaled. My issue with journaling is I'm not always consistent with journaling day to day. But what I have benefited from with journaling is I'll look back at a journal I wrote in 4 years ago, and it will be really insightful to see where I was then, where I am now. Sometimes it's things that have changed with me in that period of time. And sometimes I've looked and I'm like, I'm still saying the same thing 4 years later. So those journaling can have benefits in more than one way. So journaling is one. Another is mindfulness, being mindful of your thoughts. So this requires to stop the busyness for short periods of time in your day. If it's in the morning when you wake up, having time by yourself in the quiet, and allowing yourself to allow your thoughts to go by and recognize what are the types of thoughts you're having. Are you having thoughts of anxiety and fear? Or are you having thoughts of a negative outlook on how your day will go? Or are you having thoughts on, something good that you're looking forward to? These are things that can be important. They can let you know what are the things you look forward to, what are your values. But it can also let you know, I really do have a negative outlook on things, So sitting in mindfulness, you can start that in the morning. You could also do it midday. You could do it before bed. Mindfulness, sitting and watching your thoughts is a good way to just understand what do you embody? What are the types of things that you tend to think about? And you're doing that without judging yourself, because you're doing it so that you can get information and recognize this about yourself, that awareness. And then last, I have one more that I wanted to mention to you all, and that would be when you have conversations, to be able to pause before you respond. Because in those moments, it can be hard, especially if it's, a tough type of conversation, or if you're someone who responds before you listen. You want to listen to who you're talking to, but you also want to listen to yourself before you respond. So if you're in a conversation, before you say something, pause and gather what are the emotions you're feeling, so you're not just reacting, but you're responding. Reacting means someone triggers you and then you say something that flies off the handle, or, usually doesn't come out the way you want, or the end result isn't usually the way you want. But when you respond, that means that you have had a moment to sit with your emotion. You can sit with how whatever you receive feels in your body, and you can be intentional about how you communicate back. That could be really good in your personal relationships, but it can also be good for your relationship with self, because when you're more controlled and more intentional about how you say something, and also you do say something, that's what pausing can allow you to do, to say something instead of freezing. You can also have a better self-confidence because you are speaking your truth. So that is what I'm sharing with you today. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And also share this with someone who you feel could benefit. And put a red heart in the comment section to let me know you've received this message. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.